Welcome, everybody. Very happy to be here and hosting as I wrote in my LinkedIn post, All Stars panel. So would just like to encourage you all to look up Sophie, Shishi, and Steve's profiles and connect to them through the platform. And I'm sure you will get a lot of value out of these connections, especially if you're interested in this topic. So today's panel is about building a talent strategy for the future. And we are really looking to study, discuss some of the key trends which are possibly influencing the talent strategy. It's a very broad topic, and in our preparation sessions, we struggled a little bit to say how do we make this most relevant, more relevant for everybody. So we finalized focus on a couple of topics. So I would like to kick off by just highlighting the relevance of this from my perspective. So some of the important trends and drivers that are impacting talent, and there are many, as we know, right? And especially example is future of jobs, right? Especially in context of the IT functions and transformations, which is what DASA focuses on. So I'm going to highlight some of them. First, impact of technology. We are going to take on the impact of AI, especially in today's discussion. But you have other technologies, also data science, etc., playing an important role, right? The second is the generally at a very high level, the societal and generational changes, and especially the differences which we are seeing, right, between, let's say, Generation Z, Gen Z, and the earlier generations, and especially because the new generation, the younger folks, are bringing in a different mindset to workplace, seeking deeper purpose, demanding more flexibility, and I think this is also leading us to question how do we maintain the social fabric at workplace, especially with the more recent trends we have seen in terms of the Great Resignation, etc. Right. The third is the fact that there is a change in the operating model that the organizations are seeing. There is a move towards high performing teams. There is a consistent search for more business agility and velocity, and everything is moving faster, more products, etc. Right? So we feel that in our workplace. And I think this is also leading to a new style of leadership, that is sort of becoming imperative for organizations. So we are going to explore some of these aspects today, and we have a great panel here. I'm extremely excited about having three thought leaders joining us. So let me kickstart this, and I'm going to pick on Shishi to kickstart this one by helping us explore the impact of artificial intelligence. I mean, you cannot open any magazine, blog, TV channel, etc., without talking about artificial intelligence. So I don't think we should ignore it. I think from everything I have read in the architecture, there are some implications which have been discussed, but I think coming from all of you, let's make it as practical as possible. You are all futurists at work, talent leaders. What's the impact that AI is expected to have on the skills of the future, on the talent of the future? Can you sort of walk us through the fact that there are competing narratives around AI at the moment? They are both threatening to distort the image of AI among workforce, but also creates great promise. Shishi?
Yeah, thanks, Sukhbir. And I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm from Siemens, and as I like to tell people, we don't make fridges anymore for a long time now, which means our whole narrative has dramatically changed. Just to give you a bit of context where we're coming from, and AI is absolutely impacting us, but I, like all of you, perhaps, I don't know all of you. I don't have a crystal ball, so I can just share what's going on, what are the practical things that we are doing as a large company. So Siemens, we have the ambition to be the first really scalable digital industrial solutions company in the world, combining the real and the digital. And that's really where our advantages, but also where the complexity and the challenges come in. And we're in many different industries, as you might know. So we touch digital industries, so factory automation is very, very big with mobility. We have rolling stock, but also the signaling piece and mobility as a service, as we call it. And then the whole piece around smart infrastructure, so smart grids, smart cities, smart buildings. And as you can already tell just from the coverage that we have, automation, electrification, and digitalization, it's the heart of everything. And we actually welcome the trend of AI at the company. And just to give you a bit of a sense of also the talent pools that exist within Siemens that we're now talking about when we think about AI and their impact. The digital business revenue currently is projected to grow from 9% to 14% of total revenue. We're currently at about 62 billion euros, 62 billion euros annually. And tech roles currently are about 15% of our population of 300,000 people. And that's also projected to grow by about 20% over the next 5 years. So we are definitely thinking about AI and its impact. We're actually currently running a large scale, what we call Next Work project. And Next Work essentially is analysis of all the work that's currently happening. We're currently at, I think, 20% coverage of the entire Siemens population, 300,000 people, and looking at how their jobs are going to change over the next 3 or 5 years. And we're going to increase that percentage to more than 50% over the next year or two. But essentially, we're looking at what's the impact of AI on each of these jobs. And we are particularly looking at our tech roles, which for us are the architects, developers, but also cybersecurity, product managers, and also in part sales. And we are not able at the moment to give you a holistic picture to say, Siemens with their with all the tech pools that we have, how is AI exactly changing each of these jobs? But what the people are doing in any of the businesses I mentioned are taking a sort of open arms approach and experimenting with AI. And I can just tell you that for the P&O organization, the PPIN organization function that I am part of, we are doing it in almost every aspect of our own job. So just take recruiting. We're experimenting with AI-based skills based candidate job matching, right? So that's already being launched. But also we're doing that at the interviewing stage where we're taking the co-pilots. They're helping us to design interviews and case studies. So just to give you sort of 2 flight levels at the Siemens level that we're running this analysis. So we're not yet able to tell you exactly how AI is going to impact us as a company, but we're welcoming with open arms. And at the teams level, I think many teams across Siemens, including our own, are actively embracing experimenting with AI.
That's wonderful. And in fact, I think this is one of the aspects, the fact that there are 2 dimensions of AI's impact, right? One is obviously on the future of jobs itself, right? What type of jobs will exist and cease to exist. The other is actually leveraging AI as part of your HR, as part of your recruitment, talent development, talent management strategies, right? So appreciate you sharing that. So I would extend that actually to Sophie, to include her and especially learn. I was reading the World Economic Forum study on the future of jobs, and they have a whole analysis. It's a massive publication of certain jobs, certain category of jobs which will sort of cease to exist. So with futuristic thinking and new jobs that are emerging that are becoming more and more important. Are you leveraging some of those elements so in your work that you're doing within Amazon?
Yeah, absolutely. And to this piece, I would link as well to what Shishi was saying around experimenting with AI. So in Amazon, we have different roles. Some are very tech, and some of them are very operational. And I think the key strategy is go ahead, experiment, and see how we can use this new technology for our future. And I think AI, as many other new technologies, bring a wind of fear, like we had with internet so many years ago. But actually, we learn to work with it and upskill ourselves and build a more added value workspace where we can all learn and develop ourselves. So that's a bit the mindset that we're going with, and experimenting in everyday's job, every function. How can we lift this technology and really gain from it?
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much, Sophie. And Steve, you are welcome to respond to both dimensions of the question, but I'll add another dimension for you, which is, there's also this aspect of there is not just the gap between generations, there's also the gap between, let's say, high and low performing geographies, if I may, without without sounding too divisive, also countries, right? So, I mean, some countries are much further into adoption of technology and AI in general compared to others. Can you also take that aspect? Because for a large global organization, and you consult a lot of them, right? I mean, Siemens, Amazon are both very global, right? They themselves are feeling this complexity probably among geographies also, right? How do you take that, include that trend also in your AI strategy, impacting the talent strategy as a whole?
Yeah, thank you for that. So I think, so just to give you a sort of a context so that where this comes and where we come from. So Emergen's mission is to improve the way people and companies work forever. So it's a very large statement, but the key aspects are really, it for me, very much so about the people. So it's about how do we use this to democratize learning? Do we use it to democratize this idea of that there are, let's call them technology or new tech drought in the world, just as there are food, deserts, etc., in the world and everything else, that we know that there are these challenges. But I think what this offers is opportunity, and I love the fact that both of my colleagues here have suggested experimentation. I mean, this is exactly what we need to be thinking of. We need to be looking at this rather than this fearful set of technology, which we've had since the dawn of time. And even in my lifetime, it's been, oh, we're sending work around the world. It's going to take away all our jobs. Actually, it brought more work. It continue to bring more work. So I see this as, how do we use it as a helper? How do we use it as something that level sets across organizations? How do we use large language models to enable, even from things like onboarding? I mean, I love the idea of using it within the hiring process, but imagine it was your knowledge base for you as an onboarding, no matter where you are in the world. I mean, I look at our onboarding, and certainly for some of the companies we work with, I would suggest that they're predominantly held in English. Maybe that's a bad thing, but maybe this is a way to actually bring this into a different space. Maybe we could be looking at how we bring and onboard and educate and continue to educate and upskill workforces in a way which is much more natural, in a way which is much more productive to what organizations want. They want the improvements, they want the skills, they want the talent, and I do see that AI has a significant part to play in this. So I'm really excited by this space, especially we can see how quickly this is moving, which is forcing people to not just sit back, but to actually participate, which can only be a good thing.
Yeah, that's great. So just to continue on that and maybe make it somewhat practical, I think this is this is also linked to, I mean, is there specific advice that you can give to talent leaders, IT leaders who are part of this forum,
Yeah.
especially in terms of upskilling, areas where you would recommend upskilling your workforce to sort of get them ready for the future, right? Or aspects of talent acquisition, retention, mobility, etc. Those are the topics which everybody is facing right now, right? So.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say my recommendation is regularly the same one, and it's really my go-to. It's just that we all need to upskill ourselves on a regular basis, and not just only when we fear for a technology, but just because as human we are learning animals, and we keep learning. We have this amazing capacity, and so we need to enable our employees, our companies, to keep growing with us. First, to engage, to retain them, but also to grow as a company. So, of course, upskilling, and in every domain possible. So for those, let's say, IT roles, of course, upskilling to this specific new technology to make sure that we stay up to date, that we're learning about it, we're experimenting, but also for anyone else who is in a role that's maybe not directly impacted by, meaning that they can use it in their everyday work, but why not upskilling them to collaborating with AI, collaborating with this tool, learning how to make a role either with a bigger scope or with a better efficiency by a collaboration rather than a replacement.
Yeah, that is great. And I think there are so many dimensions in the response that you have that are worth exploring and discussing, but we are going to try to stick to our core topic today. But I mean, I love the fact that there are so many hooks which I think talent leaders can get inspired from. And I'm going to request Shishi to talk from her, let's say, insights and also experience and expertise in terms of, is there an impact of all of these elements on your leadership development programs, especially as you look for, new styles of leadership, leaders in incorporating or bringing empathy to work. And we just had a session on psychological safety, which was fantastic, talking about how do you actually offer that at workplace, right? By taking the risk away from the teams and empowering them. These are all big words, right? But actually doing this in real reality in a large, complex, politicized organizations is always complex. What are you doing within Siemens, Shishi?
Big question. Actually, I like the anecdote of Astro Teller, who leads Google X Moonshot Initiative, said if you want to train a monkey to recite Shakespeare on a tall pedestal, what do you do first? Do you try to train a monkey first, or do you try to build a pedestal? And if you're really going big, you have to go for the most difficult challenge and do that first, because you can always build a pedestal once the monkey starts reciting Shakespeare. So the biggest challenge that we have at Siemens, because we're going through such a business model and go-to-market transformation, and from really selling hardware and products to all kinds of software businesses, and it's not just software products, it's leadership. And it's really time that we're talking, because currently we're running an analysis, but also after that, I'm sure there'll be many initiatives that follow that's got visibility at the Siemens board level that looks exactly at software leaders of today and tomorrow and what we need to do differently. Because we do recognize that in order to scale at the speed that we'd like to, what we have currently as incumbent leaders might not be sufficient. So it's both an internal upskilling, but also an external recruiting. And we've looked quite deeply into what kinds of experiences and mindsets and capabilities do quote unquote software leaders, right, need to bring to the organization. And there's no one size fits all, but it seems like there are a couple of things that get mentioned quite a lot. And we've surveyed a breadth of leaders across the organization that are all deeply driving tech and software work. So first of all, it's always a deep understanding of the go-to-market and customer needs. And paired with that a strong external network, because maybe 10 years ago, the whole, AI startup scene might look very, very differently from the startup scene that you have today. There might be, thousands and tens of thousands of AI-based startups out there. So you need to have your fingers in that landscape, in that ecosystem as a leader, so that you can, to sort of the second one, you need to be able to inspire the team and show them where things are possible, or as we like to say, what impossible things do you want to make possible? Second, we're really expanding the idea of leadership to leadership teams, because even if you can get the best leader who embodies a lot of those qualities, it's still not sufficient. So currently in our Siemens executive pipelining, we're primarily looking at CEO and CFO profiles. So very soon we're going to expand that to chief sales officers, chief technology officers. Surprisingly, they're not really regularly part of our pipelining. Chief product officers and so on and so forth. We're looking holistically at a leadership team that can really drive things forward. And you can see also that within that team of different experiences and mindsets, they can play on each other's strengths and balance things out. Then it's also ability to navigate the organization, because we're not a pure play software company. And it's very, very important that we leverage also the hardware bits and make, the IoT work, make OT and IT and that interface work. And so people who are able to navigate the sort of monster and system that Siemens, with the agility and the mindsets, and you mentioned psychological safety of more of a startup, for many speedboats and internal startups ongoing at Siemens. And I think the last piece is not unimportant, but it's very, very important to us that these leaders, no matter in which internal startup or speedboat they are, they're able to holistically embody and really tell the Siemens digital strategy as one, convincingly to the capital market. Because you see that sometimes that fails and they tell just one part of the story, and that doesn't bring the whole company forward. If I may just have 1 minute for a very practical example. In our building X, which is sort of the future of smart buildings, right? They're facing the exact problem of how do you change mindsets of leaders who are in the hardware business, right, of building products and integrating the software bits, and how do you make that work? And they're actually putting a lot of their leaders plus their teams through design thinking, because if they do not really touch things or try to experiment on processes, say, if I do this, then that will happen. Oh, I can visualize that. I can see that happening. It won't really work. They can't be talked at. They need to experience it.
I think you're absolutely right. I think make it very practical also for the leaders. Thank you very much, Shishi. That was very insightful. Steve, I'm going to ask you another, what I consider very important, but also at the same time a probably broad topic, complex topic. But what are the considerations for employer brand, and especially given that the employee engagement is such an important part of the brand these days, right? How is that impacting the future of talent strategy for organizations, given some of the other discussions we've had?
Yeah, so just before I come on to that, I just want to touch just one more thing on what you was just talking about there, which was this idea, and it will touch into employer brand, so I swear it will dovetail it, I promise. This idea of training and educating leaders. We actually don't know where our next leaders are going to come from. And just to take a great example, did you know that the president and the CEO of Walmart was once an hourly associate who was loading trucks?
That's a great example. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Imagine that, like Fortune 1 right there. But starting that career. Now that was important. Now, an interesting thing when you look at organizations like that is they teach leadership skills from the ground up. I think it's really important when you look at an organization, and I think this is where it comes into employer brand and employer awareness, that you actually are very declarative about, from day one, we're going to help you give these skills. We're going to help you forge and create your path within the organization, your career, no matter where it takes you. I think part of the job for organizations when they talk about how they want to be seen by current and potential employees is that we're not afraid to give you the education that you need, regardless of whether you stay in this organization or not. Our job is to help you be the best you can be and then celebrate you beyond that. And I think when we look at employer brand, I think that's really important because I think people right now want to have a purpose. They want to feel connected. And I think sometimes it's easy to lose that connection. So I think it's really incumbent on organizations, leaders especially, to promote that, to talk about that. And I've got a couple of folks that I know in my network who are just simply the best at promoting this sense of, I'm going to just say, well-being. I think that's ultimately what this does.
I agree.
It
I
promotes
think
a sense of well-being.
Yeah, it goes absolutely goes. It's a long-term strategy which you also adopt, right? Which goes beyond just a small short-term transactional element. I see that our time is up, but I would like to encourage the three of you, if you would please take a minute or two to look at the questions which were raised by others, and if you have any other perspective that you would like to share, please share any links, ideas, practical. I think the summary will be shared with everybody. So, and definitely want to thank all of you. Really appreciate it. Very good, very insightful, and I think there is a lot of value for everybody here. Thank you.
Thanks, Supir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sophia.